It all came crashing down on a quiet Sunday morning. I was sitting in the kitchen, coffee in hand, scrolling through my phone, when my wife walked in with a look I'll never forget. Her eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. She sat across from me, hands trembling slightly, and whispered, "I need to tell you something. Something about my boss." At first, my mind went blank. She kept talking, her words spilling out like broken glass, cutting deeper with every sentence. 2 years. 2 whole years she had been seeing him behind my back. Not just a fling, not some drunken mistake, but a full-blown affair that began in March 2022 and lasted until May 2024. While I was planning our vacations, paying bills, building what I thought was a stable future, she was sneaking around with a man nearly 20 years older than her. I couldn't breathe. My heart was pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream, but all I managed was, "Why?" The question hung between us like smoke in the air. She said she didn't plan it, that it just happened. She said he gave her attention when I was too busy with work, that he listened, that he made her feel alive. Those words cut me deeper than anything. I was the husband who worked late nights so she could feel secure, and yet she found life in the arms of another man. I slammed my fist on the table so hard the coffee mug shattered, scalding liquid running across my hand. I didn't even feel the burn. My whole body was shaking. Images rushed through my head, her smile when she texted late at night, her sudden interest in dressing up for work, the way she guarded her phone like it was made of gold. All the signs were there, and I ignored them. "Do you love him?" I asked. My voice didn't even sound like my own. She shook her head quickly. "Number? It wasn't about love. It was about me, about feeling wanted. Wanted. That word echoed in my skull. I had spent years making her feel wanted. I brought her flowers, I planned our anniversaries, I held her when she cried. But apparently none of that was enough compared to the thrill of someone else's attention. I stood up, pacing the kitchen like a trapped animal. My chest was tight, my vision blurry. 2 years, I muttered. 2 years you kissed me with the same mouth that kissed him. 2 years you lay in my bed, smiling while hiding this. She reached out, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I'm sorry, I ended it. It's over. I want us." I pulled my hand away before she could touch me. The thought of her skin against mine made me sick. I walked into the living room, then back into the kitchen, unable to stand still. My mind screamed for answers, but none of her words could fill the hollow she had carved inside me. When the storm inside finally broke, I found myself punching the wall until my knuckles bled. I didn't care. Pain felt better than the numbness. She stood there, sobbing, asking me to stop. But I couldn't. The house shook with the sound of my rage, a rage not just at her, but at myself, for not seeing it sooner. Eventually, I collapsed onto the floor, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. She knelt beside me, but I turned away. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage was gone in that moment. The trust, the safety, the love, all shattered like glass on the kitchen floor. And yet, a part of me still clung to the memory of who we used to be, before the lies, before the betrayal. That contradiction, loving her but hating her, threatened to tear me apart. Keep watching. It only gets deeper. The hours after her confession blurred into a haze. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing, while she hovered near the doorway like a shadow. Every few minutes, she whispered, Please, say something. But I couldn't. Words felt useless. My silence was heavier than any argument we had ever had. By late afternoon, I finally spoke. "Tell me everything," I said flatly. My voice carried no anger now, only a cold demand for the truth. No half-truths, no sugarcoating. Every detail she swallowed hard, then began unraveling the secret life she had built behind my back. "It started small," she said. Late nights at the office, casual conversations that grew too personal, a business trip where lines blurred. At first, she swore it was just flirting. But one night, after drinks, she let him kiss her. That was the beginning of 2 years of lies. I clenched my fists as she spoke, but I forced myself to listen. She described hotel rooms, excuses about working late, even times when I called her while she was with him. I would step outside, pretend I was in the lobby, she admitted, tears streaming down her face. Every sentence was a knife. I imagined her lying in his bed, then coming home to mine, her head on my chest, whispering she loved me, all while knowing she belonged, at least partly, to another man. "Did anyone else know?" I asked. The thought of being the fool in someone else's joke burned inside me. She shook her head. "Number I never told a soul. Not my friends, not my family. I was terrified of losing you, even while I kept betraying you." I laughed bitterly. "Terrified of losing me? You lost me the first time you touched him." She flinched as though I had struck her. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I ended it. He wanted me to leave you, but I couldn't. I realized I couldn't imagine life without you. The hypocrisy made my stomach churn. She had clung to me when it was convenient, but she hadn't thought of me while sneaking around for 2 years. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. My mind replayed every unexplained late meeting. Every time she turned her phone face down, every moment I ignored my gut telling me something was wrong. The betrayal lived in my bloodstream now, poisoning everything. I got up and walked through the house in the dark. The photos on the walls, our wedding day, vacations, birthdays, all mocked me. Smiling faces that belonged to a life I thought was real. I wanted to rip them down, burn them, erase the past. But another part of me clung to them desperately, as if proof of the happy years might make the last 2 disappear. In the morning, I told her to leave. She begged to stay, promising counseling, swearing she'd prove her loyalty. But I couldn't stand the sight of her. I packed a bag for her myself and placed it by the door. "Go to your sister's. I need space." She cried, clutched my hand, kissed my knuckles. The same knuckles bloodied from punching the wall. "Please, don't give up on us." But I pulled away. "You gave up on us 2 years ago." When she finally walked out, the silence that filled the house was unbearable. It wasn't peace, it was emptiness. I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the broken mug still lying in the trash, a symbol of everything shattered. Days blurred together. I went to work, came home, sat in front of the TV without watching. My friends called, but I ignored them. How could I explain? "Hey guys, turns out my wife's been sleeping with her boss for 2 years." Shame clung to me like a second skin. I felt like less of a man, like I'd failed to protect my marriage, my home, myself. At night, the rage returned. I punched pillows, yelled into the empty house, sometimes even found myself screaming her name into the darkness. Then came the guilt, because despite it all, I still loved her. I hated her, but I loved her. That contradiction twisted my insides until I felt sick. One evening, I found myself scrolling through our old messages, back when she used to text me every hour, telling me she missed me. Back when she called me her best friend, her soulmate. I wanted to believe those words were true once. I wanted to believe the woman I married still existed under all the lies. But the question gnawed at me. If she could betray me once, for 2 whole years, what would stop her from doing it again? As the days passed, her absence grew louder. She texted constantly, begging for a chance to talk, to explain, to fix things. Each time, I ignored her, but my heart raced at every message. Part of me wanted to hear her voice again, to believe her promises. The other part wanted to block her number and erase her from my life forever. I was caught in a war between memory and reality, between the wife I thought I had and the stranger who had confessed in my kitchen that Sunday morning. The first week apart felt like living in a fog. I went through the motions of daily life, but inside, nothing felt real. Work was a blur. Conversations with colleagues passed through me like smoke, and food had no taste. At night, the silence in the house echoed louder than any argument we'd ever had. And then came her messages. At first, just short apologies. I'm sorry. Please answer me. Then longer ones. I know I destroyed everything, but I'll do anything to fix this. Please don't shut me out. Eventually, she started calling. Every night. Sometimes I picked up just to hear her sob quietly into the phone, begging me to see her. Other times I stared at the screen until it went dark. After 2 weeks, I agreed to meet, not because I wanted reconciliation, but because I needed clarity. We sat in a small diner on the edge of town. She looked pale, her eyes swollen from crying. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. This wasn't the confident woman I had married, but a broken version of her. She reached for my hand across the table, but I pulled it back. Talk, I said. Her voice cracked. I don't know how to live without you. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please, let me try to make this right. I'll go to counseling. I'll cut him out completely. I'll give you passwords, my phone, everything. I stared at her, searching for sincerity. Do you even know why you did it? I asked. She swallowed hard. I felt invisible. You were working so much, always tired, always stressed. He noticed me. He made me feel wanted. But it wasn't love. It was selfishness. And I hate myself for it. Her words stung because there was truth in them. I had worked long hours, sometimes forgetting anniversaries or dinners. But nothing could justify 2 years of betrayal. You had choices? I said sharply. You could have talked to me. You could have asked for more. Instead, you lied. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But I don't want to lose you. Please, let's try counseling. Just 1 session. If you still want me gone after, I'll never bother you again. I sat there, torn apart. Part of me wanted to walk away, leave her sitting in that booth and never look back. But another part, the part that remembered our wedding vows, our first apartment, the nights we stayed up laughing until sunrise, whispered that maybe, just maybe, she deserved a chance to prove she could change. I agreed to counseling, not out of hope, but out of exhaustion. I needed answers I couldn't find alone. Our first session was brutal. The therapist asked her to explain the affair from start to finish, and I listened as if my wounds were being ripped open again. She admitted details I hadn't known. Lies about business trips that were really weekends away. Gifts he had given her that she had pretended were from co-worker appreciation days. Every revelation was another stab, yet I forced myself to stay in the chair. When it was my turn, I unleashed everything. The anger, the humiliation, the sleepless nights. "You destroyed my trust," I said, my voice shaking. "How do you expect me to ever believe a word out of your mouth again?" She didn't defend herself. For once she sat quietly, tears streaming, nodding at my every accusation. "I don't expect you to believe me right away," she said softly, "but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your trust again." The therapist told us rebuilding would take years, not months. That forgiveness was not the same as forgetting. That if I chose to stay, I would have to live with the scars. But those scars didn't have to define the future. Walking out of that office, I felt both lighter and heavier. Lighter because the truth was finally all on the table. Heavier because I realized just how deep the damage went. At home that night, I sat alone on the couch, staring at my phone. She had texted me, "Thank you for giving me a chance. I won't waste it." But deep down, I wasn't sure if I had given her a chance, or if I had simply delayed the inevitable. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Every time she spoke, I wondered if it was another lie. And every time she cried, I couldn't tell if it was from guilt or fear of losing her comfortable life. The war inside me raged on. Stay and fight for what we had, or walk away and reclaim the pieces of myself she had shattered. The weeks after that first counseling session were some of the strangest of my life. She tried everything to prove her loyalty. Every morning I woke up to long messages, paragraphs about how much she loved me, how grateful she was that I hadn't left yet, how she would never hurt me again. She shared her phone location, gave me access to her social media, even placed her phone face up on the table whenever we were together, as if the glowing screen itself could serve as an offering of honesty. And yet, none of it eased the knot in my chest. Every time her phone buzzed, my stomach flipped. Every time she left the room, even just to grab something from the kitchen, my mind whispered, "What if? What if she was lying again? What if there was another secret, another man, another betrayal waiting to crawl out of the shadows?" She began suggesting date nights. Dinner at our old favorite restaurant. Walks in the park where we once dreamed about kids and houses with white fences. I went along, but the magic was gone. I smiled when she cracked a joke, but my eyes searched for cracks in her face, signs of deception. One night at dinner, she reached across the table, eyes wide and hopeful. "Do you think you'll ever be able to trust me again?" I set my fork down and looked at her. "I don't know," I said. "I want to. But trust isn't something you can glue back together. Once it's broken, it never looks the same." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. "I'll live with that. As long as you're still here, I'll keep trying." Her determination was almost painful to watch. She was suddenly the wife I had begged for years ago, attentive, affectionate, eager to please. The irony cut deep. Why did it take betrayal for her to remember what marriage meant? At counseling, she repeated the same words week after week. Remorse, regret, promises. The therapist pushed us to discuss not just the affair, but the underlying fractures in our relationship. My long hours, her loneliness, the quiet resentment that built over time. I admitted my faults, the missed dinners, the fatigue, the way I sometimes tuned her out after long days at work. But I never excused her actions. Nothing justified 2 years of lies. Still, I couldn't deny there were moments when I saw glimpses of the woman I once loved. like when she laughed too hard at a silly TV show, or when she hummed absent-mindedly while cooking dinner. Those flashes of normalcy made me ache. They reminded me of everything we had before she chose someone else's arms. But the ghosts lingered. One evening, while folding laundry, I found an old blouse tucked in the back of her drawer. A blouse I remembered her wearing on nights she claimed she was working late. I held it in my hands, shaking, the memories clawing at me. She came into the room, saw the blouse, and froze. "I should have thrown that away," she whispered. "I dropped it on the bed like it was poison." "Why didn't you?" She reached for me. "Because I wanted to face what I did, to remind myself never to go back to that life." I stared at her, torn between believing and doubting every syllable. Was it really a reminder, or just another secret she had forgotten to bury? Nights became the hardest. She reached for me in bed, but I lay stiff, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes I moved to the couch, unable to stand the warmth of her body against mine. She cried quietly beside me, and though part of me wanted to hold her, another part recoiled, whispering she gave herself to him. Friends began to notice my distance. One of them pulled me aside after work and asked, "Are you okay? You look like hell." I wanted to spill everything, to let the weight crush someone else for a while. But the shame was unbearable. Instead, I just shrugged. Rough patch. The truth was, I didn't know how much longer I could live like this, half in, half out, trapped between the life I had built and the wreckage she had created. And then came the day she suggested something I hadn't expected. "Let's renew our vows," she said one evening, her voice soft but steady. "Let's start over. I want to stand in front of you, in front of God, and promise again. And this time, I'll mean every word." Her proposal stunned me. Part of me wanted to laugh. Vows meant nothing when the first ones had already been trampled. But another part of me felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in months. Possibility. Could we really start over? Or was it just another bandage over a wound too deep to heal? I didn't answer her that night. I just stared at her across the table, torn between the ashes of betrayal and the faintest ember of hope. The idea of renewing our vows lingered in my mind like a song I couldn't shake. At first, I dismissed it as absurd. How could we stand before God or anyone else and pretend that promises meant something after she had already broken them? But the more she pressed, the more I wondered if maybe, just maybe, it could be a way to bury the past. She threw herself into planning. She looked up chapels, talked about simple ceremonies, even mentioned inviting just a handful of friends and family. "It doesn't have to be big," she said one night as we sat on the couch. "It just has to be real." Her enthusiasm was overwhelming. It was as though she believed this gesture could erase 2 years of betrayal. Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the images. Her laughter over dinner with him, the lies about business trips, the way she once came home smelling faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. At counseling, I admitted my hesitation. She wants to renew vows, but to me it feels fake, like painting over a cracked wall. The therapist nodded. Renewal ceremonies can be powerful, but only if the foundation beneath them is strong. If the trust isn't there, no vow will fix it. That night, I told her what the therapist said. She didn't flinch. "Then let's build the foundation first," she replied. "Every day, one step at a time. I'll wait until you're ready." And she tried. God, she tried. She cooked my favorite meals, left notes in my work bag, even started running errands I usually handled. She laughed at my jokes, listened intently when I spoke, touched my hand gently when we watched TV. It was as if she was trying to rewind time, to bring back the version of us that existed before her affair. But the harder she tried, the more suffocated I felt, because every sweet gesture carried a shadow. The reminder that she hadn't done these things when it actually mattered. She hadn't chosen me when she had the chance. She had chosen him. One evening, while washing dishes together, I blurted out, "Did you ever tell him you loved him?" She froze, a plate slipping slightly in her hand. Numbered never. It wasn't love. It was weakness. 2 years is more than weakness, I said bitterly. She set the plate down, turned to me with pleading eyes. I swear to you, I never loved him. It was lust, attention, stupidity, but not love. Her words should have comforted me, but instead they hollowed me out even more. If she could betray me without even loving the other man, then what did that say about how easily she could throw us away? The next morning, I left early and drove aimlessly through town. I found myself parked outside the office building where it all began. The sight of those glass windows made my skin crawl. I imagined them inside, the stolen glances, the lingering touches, the lies crafted within those walls. I wanted to storm inside and demand answers from him too. Did he ever feel guilty? Did he ever think of me, the man whose life he was dismantling piece by piece? Or was I just collateral damage in his pursuit of someone younger, someone married, someone forbidden? I didn't go in. Instead, I sat in the car gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then I drove home, where she was waiting with dinner and a hopeful smile. That night, lying in bed, I realized the cruelest part of betrayal isn't just the act itself. It's the way it rewrites every memory. Our vacations, our laughter, even the simplest, "I love you." All of it now had a question mark hanging over it. Was she already lying then? Was she thinking of him while holding my hand? Sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake, listening to her breathe beside me, and wondered if I was clinging to a ghost. The following weekend, she suggested we visit her parents. "It'll be good for us," she said. "They always loved you. Maybe being around family will remind us of what we're fighting for." I agreed, reluctantly. Her parents welcomed me warmly, unaware of the storm beneath the surface. They praised us for sticking together through tough times, their words like salt on an open wound. She beamed, holding my hand tightly, as if to show them, and me, that everything was fine. But inside, I was screaming. It wasn't fine. It would never be fine. On the drive home, I finally said it aloud. "I don't know if I can do this. No matter what you do, it still feels broken." Her grip tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles pale. "Then let me keep trying. Please, don't give up on me yet." I turned to look at her, her eyes glistening in the dim glow of the dashboard. For the first time, I realized she wasn't just fighting for our marriage. She was fighting for her survival, for the life she had built on my love. And I didn't know if I wanted to save her or let her drown in the consequences of her choices. The breaking point came quietly, not with shouting or slammed doors, but with silence. We sat in the living room one evening, the television flickering in the background, untouched glasses of wine on the table. She had been talking about counseling, about progress, about the small victories we had made. I listened, nodding occasionally, but my chest felt heavy with unspoken words. Finally, I said it. "I don't think I can ever love you the same way again." Her face crumpled, tears spilling instantly. Please, don't say that. But it was the truth. Love was still there, yes, but it was mangled, scarred, reshaped into something unrecognizable. I still cared for her, but not with the blind devotion I once had. Something precious had been lost, and no amount of effort could restore it. She sat across from me, shoulders shaking, and whispered, "Then what's the point of all this?" I stared at her for a long time, because I still don't want to let go. Not yet. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if holding on was strength or weakness. Maybe both. Betrayal had changed me, stripped away the naive certainty that love was unbreakable. But it hadn't killed the part of me that still hoped. Hoped that scars could one day feel less raw. Hoped that trust, even fractured, could be enough to build a quieter kind of love. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, the fury dulled. The sharp edges of memory softened, though they never disappeared. We went to counseling, we rebuilt routines, we carved out small spaces of normalcy. There were still nights when I recoiled from her touch, still mornings when I stared at her and saw only lies. But there were also moments, fleeting, fragile, when I caught a glimpse of the woman I had chosen and the life we had once dreamed. One evening, we sat on the porch watching the sunset. She slipped her hand into mine, cautiously, as if asking permission. I let it stay. For the first time in months, I didn't pull away. I realized then that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending the past never happened. It means learning to live with the cracks, to find beauty even in what's broken. And though I didn't know what the future held, whether we would make it another year or collapse under the weight of betrayal, I knew one thing. I was no longer defined by her choices. I was stronger, wiser, and painfully aware of the fragility of love. The marriage we had before was gone. But in its place, perhaps, something new could grow. Not pure, not perfect, but real. And for now, that was enough.